What's up, everyone? My name's PlatinumHowler, coach of your Delta Gligars. Today I'm bringing you the Week 7 battle for the NCL. We were supposed to be playing against the Gligars, which is the logo you probably saw in the thumbnail. However, Vanderbilt, the coach of the Gligars, sadly was forced to drop from the league right before we were supposed to play. So Bryan is taking over and his New York Cosmogs. A very similar team name. In fact, it's the exact same team name of Phantom Base, who we played a couple times in IBL Season 6, so it might be a familiar team name, but a completely different coach. Entering Week 6, Vanderbilt was 5-0 in first place in the league. And Vanderbilt is someone who I consider without a doubt to be the strongest player in the NCL. She, I believe, was the champion of Season 5, and then she was the runner-up last season. And I think she's just an incredible player. And I was really looking forward to getting the chance to battle against her. So I'm hoping that she is doing okay, and that she is able to make a comeback to the NCL in the near future, because I would really, really like an opportunity to battle her in a future season of the NCL. However, we are playing Bryan here, and I don't actually think I've played Bryan before. I know he's been around. I've known, like, he's been in similar circles as I have for quite some time, but you see his team there on the screen. The 5 Mons that did not make an appearance are Sylveon, Jellicent, Colossal, Morpeko, and Glalie. Glalie is, of course, a very low tier pick of Vanderbilt's, and she has had quite a bit of success using very low tier Mons to her advantage. Last season, she picked up Seviper in free agency, not something that you get seen that gets used in Draft League very often, but I'm pretty sure in a shortened time that she actually had it available to her, that Seviper managed to pick up more kills than any single Mon on my championship roster last season. That's not counting playoffs. That's just looking at appearances that I made in the regular season. But still, like, that's insane. Like, a Seviper outperformed my Rillaboom, my Hawlucha, my Hatterene, all of those Pokemon, and outperformed them all. That's how well she used it. That's how incredible of a player she is. Anyways, enough about Vanderbilt. She's not featured in this video. We should be talking about Bryan here. So, you can see my team on the screen here. The sets have made a return. You can see them all on the right side of the screen. We'll I'll give a brief rundown of why I brought what I got. I've got this Greninja, which is physical. I actually brought physical Greninja and Thundurus here, mainly because I think a lot of the... Oh, I forgot to mention, the Scizor that you see is a Mega Scizor, by the way. I guess you would have found that out eventually, but... a lot of Vanderbilt's, or... Gosh, it's not Vanderbilt's, but, you know, a lot of this team, this roster's defense is special defense. So, aside from, you know, the Landorus, which has Intimidate, and the Scizor, which is naturally more physically bulky, but you see a Snorlax, you see a Sylveon, you see a Jellicent. Those are all very, mostly specially defensive Pokemon. So, I brought physical Greninja to, with Night Slash, that can get around to Latios going for Calm Minds and stuff. I have Low Kick there to hit a Snorlax, which... had the potential to be a default switch into Greninja. The other thing that I was thinking may come to handle Greninja was Sylveon. But Snorlax is better at taking on Victini as well, because Snorlax gets thick fat, so it can resist Victini's fire-type moves. Whereas Sylveon kind of invites in Victini to click V-Create for free. Now, I did think that Colossal was something else that could come to check the Victini, because Colossal is an excellent Victini check. It can basically be whatever set it wants against Victini, either Flash Fire, or maybe even do some gimmicky stuff with Steam Engine because if it switches in on a fire type move, then its speed gets boosted all the way up to +6. But we don't see the Colossal here, and that's actually why I had Magic Coat on my Victini set, was if the Colossal came and wanted to switch into my Victini and then set up rocks, I could bounce the Stealth Rocks back and get Stealth Rocks on his side of the field as well. So we kind of be on like an even playing field there if I made that prediction correctly. And then Bolt Strike we had on our Victini just basically to hit Jellicent, because that Jellicent could potentially be a switch into Victini, especially considering I'm not banded, I'm heavy duty boots. And Thundurus is Defiant, which I pretty much planned on using this as my lead. It's Jolly max speed to outspeed the Latios guaranteed by 1 point. And we just have a bunch of physical attacks here. Thundurus' physical move pool is not nearly as good as its special move pool, but Defiant means that if the Landorus comes in and intimidates us, we will actually get a +1 boost in attack. Also, if that Vileplume goes for a Strength Sap to restore its HP, it'll lower Thundurus' attack, so we'll actually get a +1 boost in attack. And we have Power Herb Fly. This is the second time this season I'm bringing Power Herb Fly Thundurus. It's mainly just there so I can have a strong way to hit the Conkeldurr. It also hits Vileplume for super effective damage, and it's also good damage off against the Scizor as well, because I brought Bulk up here to kind of like try to set up in front of the Scizor, boosting my defense and my attack so I could take hits from the Scizor better, because I resist Scizor's dual stabs, so I could potentially be sort of a pivot into that thing if necessary. Mimikyu, I brought it as specially defensive to switch into a Latios. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. Mega Venusaur I brought as more offensive, basically max HP, max special attack. It's just something that I wanted to try, because I thought I could take hits from most things, and I wanted to get damage off against stuff like Landorus and the other. But yeah, I guess I didn't really know exactly what I wanted Venusaur to do in this game, but I just am bringing it because it's a good Pokemon, and I wanted to try out a slightly different set than you usually see. And then Girder makes its first appearance of the season, its only real appearance of the season. Basically, I guess I mainly brought it because I wanted Defog, and just because I wanted to make sure I could get it to a game. And it matches up well against Snorlax. So, without further ado, we'll start the replay. I've got my Thundurus lead as the Latios is actually going to lead, which is, I don't know, didn't necessarily expect it to lead, but it is a Colberberry Latios, clearly prepared to take a hit from my Greninja and most likely fire back with a Thunderbolt to knock it out. But instead, it eats the Colberberry against my Thundurus here, and I'm not entirely sure if the second knockoff is going to knock out the Latios here. So I went ahead and just burned my Power Herb Fly, which is going to do enough damage to get rid of the Latios on turn 2, which is great because that's the biggest threat to my Mega Venusaur. And in comes the Landorus. I was really hoping that Landorus would come in here because Thundurus outsped everything else on my opponent's team, and they really just didn't have great switch-ins to Thundurus attacks. Like, I could just go for a 2-turn fly against either Vileplume or Conkeldurr. I could go for a superpower against the Snorlax. Scizor, I had a decent matchup against. So Landorus luckily comes in here and goes and gets the Intimidate on me, so I get a +1 boost in attack. I'm just going to stay in and try to get some damage off against this Landorus as we find out that it's not Scarfed. It was actually Yachi Berry. So it could take a nice move from like my Girder or something, or probably like a Glaciate from my Victini, which is a special coverage move that it gets. And it could live that attack from Victini and then get Earthquake damage off against it. So we're seeing a lot of resist berries from Bryan early on in this game. So we managed to bring Landorus down to 50%. Thundurus did a fantastic job in eliminating the Latios and weakening this Landorus as well. Because I know, I knocked, even if it was Scarf, if it was Scarf, then I would have known because it would have outsped Thundurus. Anyways, I'm getting like, whoa, restart now, reset. Greninja comes in, it's very free. I so badly wanted to click low kick, expecting the Thundurus to be a switch in here, but instead I just clicked U-turn, just in case Landorus stayed in and maybe went for a U-turn of its own against my Greninja. That would have done a ton of damage to me. It might have even knocked me out, potentially. So I didn't want to risk that. I just went for the U-turn, expecting a switch out, and if Landorus stayed in, then I could switch into something else that could take a hit, like I could switch into my Girder or something. So the Snorlax does come in. I'm going to get my Venusaur in and Mega Evolve to go for a Leech Seed. Leech Seed is going to be giving my Pokemon a ton of passive recovery because Snorlax's HP stat is so high. I always take away 12% HP away from the Snorlax, but that doesn't mean that I'm getting 12% recovery from my, on my Pokemon. Like, this Girder has less HP than the Snorlax. Girder still has a pretty decent HP stat, but I would be getting somewhere in the neighborhood of like 15% back. 15% HP back instead of 12% from the Snorlax. But it turns out I'm never going to actually be recovering any damage from Leech Seed because the Snorlax goes for one too many curses. Definitely a misplay on Bryan's part to not click Rest. I assume it was Rest that was going to come out. Either way, I don't think I was in too much trouble against this Snorlax because I did have a Mimikyu that was going to be immune to the normal type moves. And if it was Curse Rest, then it had to have, like, presumably it had a normal move and then some other coverage move to be able to hit Mimikyu, which means it doesn't have Sleep Talk. So it goes to sleep with Rest, and then it has 2 turns where it can't do anything, and I still have the Leech Seed against it to get lots of recovery with anything on my team. So I don't think I was in a bad spot there at all, but Bryan definitely didn't help his cause by just spamming Curse there. So now the Vileplume comes in. I'm not terribly threatened by this Vileplume. I would love to get a knockoff against it, get rid of its item, and see what kind of item it's got. So yeah, we'll get rid of its Black Sludge, so it's passive recovery. It reveals Moonblast, which was not something I was expecting, but it does hit the Girder for decent damage. And here I just go for a Fire Punch, because that's my strongest move against this Vileplume. It would have done around 50%, but it would have done around 50%, but because it went for Strength Sap and lowered my attack, it only did like about the same damage as the knockoff did. And Vileplume's Effect Spore ability procs here, which is going to paralyze my Girder, which is not the worst thing in the world because Girder has Guts. I do believe I brought Guts on this particular Girder. Yes, I did. So we now get a 1.5 times attack boost because we are statused by this Vileplume's Effect Spore. We are still at -2 attack though, so we're not going to be doing tons of damage this turn. But once we switch out and come back in, then we will reset our attack stat and we'll have that boosted attack stat thanks to Guts and thanks to being paralyzed. Unfortunately, I get fully paralyzed on that turn, so I don't get any damage off against the Vileplume, but I do expect it just to go for another Moonblast, and Victini takes very, very little damage from that. So I can eat that hit pretty easily and fire off a free V-Create. I get a critical hit on this Conkeldurr. I definitely would not have knocked out the Conkeldurr without the crit. However, even after my speed drop that I take from clicking V-Create, I would have outsped and I would have just been able to click V-Create for free again and get lots of damage off against something, which would have meant either a KO on the Scizor, likely a KO on the for sure a KO on the Vileplume, and very close to a KO on the Landorus, I think. So V-Create damage was still very free there. I guess the critical hit means that Conkeldurr can't get any Mach Punch damage off against me. It could have a priority move to kind of chip away at my Victini. It would have been resisted, but I also would have been at -1 defense, so it still could have done a little bit of damage, but ultimately I don't think it matters all that much. It might matter in the sense that he might not know if I'm like Choice Scarf Victini at this point or Choice Banded. Well, I mean, he could still, I mean, yeah, no, it doesn't, like, he could, for all he knows, I'm Choice Scarfed, and if, like, had the crit not happened, I would not have killed the Conkeldurr, and he would have known that I was not banded. That's the only thing that he could have learned from not getting crit on that turn. As for now, he could think that I'm banded, but if I am banded, then I'm not going to be faster than the Landorus. So that's what is going to come in now on this turn, is the Landorus, which is at 50%. And I'm definitely going to want to switch out my Victini here, because whenever Victini comes in against Vileplume or Scizor, it just claims a kill. So I definitely want to make sure that I keep my Victini around. And I'm just going to pull a switch into my Mega Venusaur here. And we see the Rock Polish comes out, so he clearly was expecting my Victini to switch out, which is good play. And then the Swords Dance! Okay, this Landorus is all of a sudden a huge threat. It outspeeds everything on my team and has double the attack. So, I'm really just hoping that my offensive Mega Venusaur here is strong enough to just straight up KO this Landorus with a Giga Drain, and it does it. It lives on 2%. I don't have a clue if that was a roll or not. If I had a slight chance to knock it out, maybe. I don't know. But ultimately here, I decided to fodder off my Girder. I can keep my Venusaur around at full HP, because I don't expect Venusaur to live a +2 Earthquake because of how I invested. I invested in special attack and not physical defense. If I were prepping for Landorus properly, I probably would have EV'd so that I could take a +2 Earthquake, but I didn't, so I'm pretty sure that I just died a +2 Earthquake, because Landorus is that strong. I'm pretty sure it has a base 145 attack stat, which is pretty insane when you have an attack that's as powerful as Earthquake and you get stabbed on it as well, so pretty terrifying. We're just going to switch in our Girder to let it die here to an Earthquake. And the only thing that I can do here, because I don't have any form of priority to pick this off, I don't have Water Shuriken on Greninja because I brought a fully physical set. And actually, well, it does get priority, a physical priority move in Shadow Sneak, but you don't see that run on Greninja very often. So I have to go into Mimikyu here because Mimikyu has its Disguise still available to it. So I need to take the hit with Disguise and then fire off an attack against the Landorus to get rid of it. And then at that point, my Victini would basically just clean up. So his play here is to go for a Rock Slide to try to flinch my Landorus. Or excuse me, to try to flinch my Mimikyu, because it can break my Mimikyu's Disguise. And if it gets the 30% flinch chance, then he would basically just win. Because, you know, he can just click Earthquake 4 times and win the game. So he needs to hope for a flinch. But I, playing this game, completely forgot what my Mimikyu's item was. I am Eject Button Mimikyu, so once I take an attack, I am forced to switch out. Which means I completely waste my Mimikyu's Disguise ability. Now, all of this could have been avoided if I just had brought any sort of priority on my team. My team is does so well at having priority moves, like in general, like Greninja's Water Shuriken, Girder's Mach Punch. Even like Girder's not something I bring all that often, but I did bring it to this game, and I didn't have Mach Punch. And Mimikyu with Shadow Sneak, Haxorus with First Impression. Like, there's so many priority options that I have to run on this team, and I didn't bring a single priority move, and that really, really is going to bite me in the ass. Never mind the fact that I brought Eject Button on Mimikyu. The idea of that was to switch into an attack from Latios, and then get a free switch into my Greninja, because you know, I'm trying to get kills with Greninja and have it turn into Ash-Greninja. But yeah, if there's anything that you should take away from this game, Eject button has potential. It's a very good item. I think that you can, if it's kind of gimmicky, but you can use it well. Just don't run it on Mimikyu, because then you eliminate one of Mimikyu's biggest niches in this format, and being able to take any hit without being forced to switch out and get damage off. I literally lost this game because I ran Eject button on Mimikyu. There's no other reason. As long as I could have brought any other item on Mimikyu and completely forget the fact that I don't have priority on my team, which in itself is also poor prep. Like, when you have so many priority options, you may as well just tech some random priority move onto anything. Like, just in case something like this happens where you maybe get a poor roll. I don't know if that was a roll at all to knock out the Landorus, because a Rock Polish Swords Dance set would typically have more EVs in the Landorus's bulk than anything else, because it doesn't need to run max speed. It doesn't need to run max attack. It could still run max attack, but Landorus, once you get a Swords Dance up, it doesn't matter how many EVs you have in attack, it's going to be doing a ton of damage to everything. Like, it just KO'd everything once it got to +2. So, yeah. Eject button is a good item, just not on Mimikyu. So, unfortunately, we take a loss here, which is going to drop us to 4-3 through 7 weeks of the season. And we will try to bounce back next week in our Week 8 match against Mike. So you will see that next Tuesday. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all of our Draft League content, and we'll see you back for some more NCL action later.